Thanks so much for joining us today to our roundtable. And I'm really excited about this conversation. We are getting ready to host our BraveCo men's conference here, June 21st through 23rd. And honestly, I just wanted to pull some guys into the room who I respect, who have just different paths, different even pathways into manhood and masculinity. And there's so much confusion about what it means to be a man. There's so much confusion about the role of a man and why this conversation is even important today, even in the church, which one is sad, but two feels like our responsibility, right? And so I think having this conversation is important for all of us and also fun at the same time. So guys, thank you so much for coming and thanks so much for watching. I just want to introduce my friends really quick so that you guys kind of feel connected to us. This is Rich Gordon, and Rich he's just a fireball, just such a great man. This is Aaron Zent, and Aaron leads our Whole Man Project here at the church. He's worked with just so many men, helping to get them free and pure. And Dave Johnson here, and Dave is of course, he's the wise one of us all. So most of our conversations today, we're gonna give him the final word, and all of it. Now, Dave lived in Alaska for a long time. He's a man's man. He leads our core groups here. And then this is DJ, and DJ is just such a stud. So we wanted him with us today, and thank you guys for coming. I do want to start the conversation, which is kind of a cliche question, but I really do feel like there is so much confusion around manhood and masculinity. And growing up, for me, I'll just talk about me for a second and then you guys can jump in. But growing up for me, I grew up in a small town of 3,000. So what it meant to be a man meant that you chop firewood, right? You run a chainsaw, you fix your own cars, you wrestle. That's the unspoken culture that I grew up in, because I grew up in the mountains and everybody hunted and everybody fished. Like, I didn't know that anybody didn't hunt and fish growing up because of, just like such a small worldview. And it's only, of course, as I grew older and then watched my dad navigate business life and family and home, did I start to even piece together that being a man doesn't have actually anything to do with whether or not you can shoot a gun or hike 20 miles but it meant a whole bunch of other things, which we're going to unpack here. But maybe what was some of your guys' experiences in your mind, like, what does it mean to be a man? Rich, what's your thoughts?
When I grew up, my dad, he's an educator, so he's got 6 degrees. My mom's got 4 degrees. Wow. And they both were at a very high level in the university space. So my mom was a dean, my dad was a dean. And so I think I watched two very powerful people. Yeah. And so the first time I saw a man not having a similar authority to a woman was actually when I got to the church.
Wow.
Oh, dang.
So in my home,
because they were both
they were both powerful people.
Yeah.
And so I grew up being like, and you can kind of see it in my marriage now. I'm married to this powerhouse like Libby. Yep. And I'm also strong in my own right, and it does reflect in many ways what was modeled to me as a kid. And so I think growing up, in South Africa, I wasn't hunting, fishing, and killing bears like you. But to be a man meant to provide, to protect, to surf. Like everyone on our town, like if you were
surfing,
yeah,
not serving.
No, to surf, yeah.
Awesome.
To play rugby,
yeah,
and to drink beer. Okay. And so that was like, and then you were tough. Men didn't cry in South Africa. Men did not cry. If you showed any sign of weakness, that was seen as weakness. Which obviously in coming to the church, I'm like, especially coming here. to Bethel.
Yeah.
I'm like, people are talking about their weakness. What?
Stop doing that.
You're gonna get crucified. You're gonna get kicked off leadership. And you know that you were case in point for me. My first encounter was Jay getting up and sharing his weakness, and I'm thinking to myself, no, he's gonna get taken off leadership. He's gonna be like, how can he share these things publicly? And realizing, actually, no, when we are weak, he is strong. And so this place was the first example of that I saw. But you know, growing up, that was not a model.
Yeah. DJ, what was your model? I'm curious.
Yeah. So for context, I grew up without my father around, actually. But I had a lot of really solid men in my life that I could look up to and observe. And so those were uncles, they were, you know, coaches, instructors, you know. I was very musical, so like, you know, different instructors and teachers. And I remember watching my cousins. I'm half Mexican, I'm half black, and so we roll deep in family. So I have tons of cousins. Like, it's very typical to have 8 kids, you know, in one home. And so we all grew up together. So I would watch them, you know, interact with their dads, and I would see sort of like, it was like I kind of came out of that moment and was like, okay, like, they're so happy. They have they're super provided for, and it's not that we weren't happy or not provided for. We were super covered. My family came through, and we were set up so well. But I just remember taking like legit notes. It was like I had this notepad in my head that was like, this is what it looks like to be a man. This is what dads do. This is what husbands do. And I actually felt like that was the Lord, like, fathering me and sort of redeeming that experience for me. So it actually feels really beautiful that I had, you know, just so many individuals in my life that were intentional in their own families, but then they were intentional in our family. Like, I had uncles that they'd pick us up, they'd take us to go play basketball, you know, they would show up to our games, to our performances. They would pick us up for church. Like, it's beautiful looking back and having all these memories. So for me, it felt like fathers, they make space. They make space for their family. They make space for their kids to excel. They make space for their wives to excel. It looks like laughter and happy homes, and it looks like providing, and, you know, all of those really foundational pieces. But yeah, that was kind of my experience. And then when I even going back and, you know, my relationship with my dad, being able to identify, like, wow, my dad was mad funny. Like, he was actually so funny. And I remember him making us laugh all the time. And, you know, I mean, he was a cook. He loved to cook for us and barbecue. And so even being able to glean what my dad did bring to the table that was so valuable. So that was kind of my perspective as a kid, learning how to be a man and learning what it means to navigate life as a father. And yeah.
That's awesome, man. There's a lot of, I mean, so much of culture today, like, guys don't have dads in the home. Yeah. If you don't mind me just diving into that just a tiny bit more.
Let's go.
Like, how was that for you, seeing your cousins and stuff, you know, have a dad around, but you don't? Was that?
Yeah, it was a tension for sure. Yeah. It was like this really beautiful thing to watch and champion from the sideline, and it was really beautiful to see my cousins thriving and to see them being fully loved. And I obviously wasn't a father then, but I'm the oldest of 4 in my family. Mm-hmm. So and when you're in a single parent household, you naturally just, you know, you step up and you share some responsibility. It's by no means being a father, but I think I felt the, like, this thing in me was that father switch was turned on a little early. You know what I'm saying? So so it was a tension. It was really beautiful, but it was also like, ouch, like, I wish I had that, you know, like, I wish my siblings had that. I wish my mom had that support, and at least, you know, from our dad. So it was a tension. It was really tough to sort of hold both of those experiences.
It's so cool because I watch a lot of guys who didn't have a dad in the home, and like, they get to where you're at in life, and it's like, man, I never felt that kind of love or that kind of covering. And it's cool to see how, like, just because you didn't have a dad necessarily in your life all the time doesn't mean that you can't get to a place where you're whole and healthy and really walking out the role that God created for you, right? Like that's the cool thing about living inside a community. So I have a lot of single moms ask me a lot, like, I'm a single mom, you know, how do I help my sons? And it's like coaches are incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, you know, get them involved in church, places where they can really connect. But, and then as you get older, that relationship with God, right, starts to become way more vital because you learn so much about being a man from getting that infusion as you grow older from God.
Yep.
That's awesome. Dave, what was it like for you as far as what did it mean to be a man when you were growing up?
Well, I really changed my life, I guess, when I was in my early 20s. Linda and I moved to Alaska, and we were there for 40 years. And so my early manhood was shaped by Alaska. And the Alaska experience, particularly 50 years ago, was very much related to the outdoor lifestyle and hunting, fishing, gathering wood. And I did that and more for many years. And I also worked for a wildlife agency. I was very involved in working with wild animals outdoors. I spent a lot of time doing things outdoors. And so I had this sense of a man does these things.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about what a man is.
Yeah, that's good.
But I'm going to read a little quote here if I can.
Listen, you can have the whole floor if you want.
Okay. Well, this is about what a man is. And it wasn't until I came here that I really began to think about what a man is, because I'd been doing. And so here's a good quote. It's a glorious thing to be a man. It's an even more glorious thing to be a man among men. When a man knows his strengths and his gifts and uses them to ennoble others, when he understands his needs and satisfies them in righteous ways, he is a thing of beauty. He reflects the glory of God. He assures the magnificence of women. He summons destiny from the hearts of the young. He makes communities safe and nations good and demonstrates virtuous power to the world. Evildoers cower. Weak men recover themselves. Women and children rejoice. This is from Men on Fire by Stephen Mansfield.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So good.
That's it.
It is it, man. I mean, that is the fruit of stepping into our call as men, right? Stuff gets restored, right order. Danny Silk says it like this, like one of the roles of a man is to bring peace to chaos. And I love that because I think about when I come home from work, it's often kind of chaotic. And because I have 2 little kids, I actually have 5 kids, but 2 littles in the home and they're running around and there's so much, my first reaction when I get home is how can I get out of this moment? If I'm honest, right? I'm just being honest. Yeah. But what I always lean into, or what I try to lean into is, okay, it's my job to come in and lend my strength. Like, how can I lend my strength to my wife? How can I lend my strength to the kids? How can I, and that's a beautiful picture, right? Of when a man comes in and lends his strength, the weak guys get stronger, right? The chaos starts to turn into peace. Because we were built to give identity. We were built to create order. We were built to protect, right? That was one of the roles of a man 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, is to set up a place where we can thrive and then patrol the perimeter. When you think about tribesmen, right? Like it wasn't the ladies that were going out and patrolling the perimeter, although a woman could, she's just not best suited for it, right? And so that was just one of the roles. And so, man, we haven't evolved that much from 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago. We still have to patrol the perimeter of what's coming into your home. The interesting thing nowadays is that the threat that men face is like, I don't hardly ever worry about someone breaking into my house, although that happened like 4 months ago. It was crazy. I woke up at like 12 at night with a guy banging on my door in this downpour, and he was half naked, like yelling to come in. You know what I didn't do? I didn't say, "Hey babe, can you go see?"
Right. Yeah.
Right. We want our roles to be equal. Everyone wants a man and a woman to be equal, but we have these roles that we were built for, right? And so I went and I met that threat, and the biggest threat that we face today in our homes is from outside sources, right? The social media, things like that. And before we get way down that road, I think I would just want to, Aaron, I want to throw it to you for a sec. and just talk about, you work with guys so much on a really deep level. Where are guys at today? Where are men at? If you were to like take the state of the union for men, like give us that.
Yeah, it's a tall order, but at least for the men that I work with, most of the time the guys that come into the room that I lead are struggling with some sort of sexual addiction, most of the time porn. And as we discover that, this porn isn't actually like the problem itself, it's usually our solution to a problem, a deeper problem. And so then we have to ask the question, well, what is this problem below that? We get to a number of different things, but one of those is a thing that we have guys who are 18 years old. We have guys that are, I think the oldest guy was maybe about 75 in our group. So we got quite a spread. In the same thing that they both talk about is their relationship with their dad. There's going to be a relationship with mothers, like for sure. There's always aspects of the different caregiver roles that they played, but I still see 75-year-old guys crying about the affection and the identity that they wanted from their dad. Somebody to say, hey, you're doing a good job. I'm proud of you. And that, like, to see that the role of a father can play that strong of a role, even when he's passed away and gone, and this guy is a grandfather now and still has that longing in his heart to hear a dad say, like, hey, I believe in you. And then obviously at the 18-year-old level, and I have a 4-year-old, and I can feel that same thing every time he's like, we're getting dressed and he's like, Dad, I have a penis like you. And I'm like, yes, you do. And then he's like, Dad, look, I'm doing the same thing that you are. And this desire to be reflected, like, I'm like you, right? And I think, it's kind of like our God identity, like, hey, made in his image, I'm like you, right? And he's like, yeah, you're like me. So I think to give a shorter answer to what could be a long philosophical question, the State of the Union would be that men need identity from other men. They need it from fathers. And then if they don't have it from a biological father, they need it from other men to pass it down to them. And so the lack of that creates this, I need to find the answer to this somewhere. Where am I going to find it? And then, man, you get something like porn that makes your brain go crazy. It feels so good. You're like, is this the answer? Like your brain doesn't have a rudder on it that's going like, hey, no, that's not it.
Bad idea.
It just goes, wow, that feels really good. Do that thing. But to have another man look you in the eye and go like, dude, I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job. It does something in your heart that like nothing else can. That's also sustainable at the same time, kind of starts to change you. So I'd say like the lack of that puts guys in a place where they're searching for somebody and something to go, oh, hey, you're actually doing good. Like you're a good man. You've got a good heart. And I believe in you. And if we can't find that from another man, we'll find it from anything that'll give us the sense that that's true. So
it's wild. It's a tough thing because I was talking with a group of guys yesterday, these guys at a disciple, and they were like, they actually listened to the podcast that we did with Jenna and Lauren.
Oh, sure.
And they were talking about how you shared a story where you were feeling really lonely, and so you called one of your friends, and just like a regular thing that you do, like if you're feeling lonely or triggered, whatever, lonely, depressed, sad, that you reach out to these guys in your life, and they're like, Jay, I don't know that, like, that's not a part of my daily life, right? That's not a part of something that I do on a regular basis. And it just feels like we have been modeled something for so long with men. It's this isolation. It's be strong, whether you're a Christian or you're non-Christian, right?
Yeah.
The Marlboro man that's one model of the guy. And now we have a complete opposite model as well. But this deal where you don't want anyone to know your weaknesses, and you really don't want to have to get somebody else's strength. Because that would make you even weaker. So then, but we're stuck because we do live in the most fatherless generation that has ever lived, where our dads are not at war. They just don't want to be around. And then you mix in pornography with that, right? We are the most pornographied. Like, I don't even know the word for that, but we live in the most graphic culture that has ever lived. It's just instant. And guys, to me, it feels like guys are suffering. They want to win, but they don't know how to win. When you tell them how to win, when you go, hey, you need men in your life, they're like, is there another answer?
Right.
Is there any other way to not have to open up and be vulnerable and share and still be doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
It really began to change my life. I guess it's been 30 years ago now when I began to meet at a very vulnerable level with other men. And it was some guys from the church, and we started getting together at 6 a.m, and because we all had work later. But to spend the time with those guys, initially it didn't go very well because we talked about football and fishing and those kinds of things. And a mentor said, somebody's going to have to take a risk. And so I took a risk. I said, guys, I'm struggling with pornography, which was an issue for me at the time. And it's like you could hear a pin drop. But they gathered around me, and things changed in that group of men. And it changed in my life, where I realized that I can share the parts of me that aren't pretty, that I don't like, and these men will come alongside me and give me comfort and strength and help me stay on the right path. And so that place of finding men, like you're talking about, has been, for me, a very big deal in life.
Rich, what does it look like for you, like your relationships with your brothers?
Yeah. We have a beautiful thing that's happened here in Reading. We grew up a group of friends in Durban, South Africa, and me and Libby came here, and then one by one they started coming to Reading to come and do school because they saw, something of God that was happening here. And so now, from where I grew up, I've got literally a guy that knew me before I was saved, so 21 years ago. Wow. They just made him the tribe leader, our young adults ministry leader, Brad. Another guy who was in our youth group, another lady that was at our wedding, another guy that I've known for 20 years. And so I've got these, and in Reading, I'd say in a transitional culture, history is
Hard
priceless.
to come by.
Yeah.
Absolutely priceless. And so I've got these men in my life that can call me out, can push me, can prod me because we've got trust. And their character's being tested. I think trust comes because of character. And so there's these men in my life that have character and trust. And so they have a voice and to speak into my life. They have a voice to share. And sometimes that looks like me just picking up the phone and be like, hey, I'm not doing good. I'm spinning out. Just talk to me. And I found when I start isolating, that's when I start spiraling. So I've intentionally will reach out consistently to avoid a spiral.
That's true.
But I would say, I think we traveled back to South Africa. When I first was here, I started traveling back to South Africa to this group, and I started getting vulnerable. And they were shocked at first. They're like, I didn't know what to do about it. And but from being here, I realized vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a weapon.
Yeah.
And going back there, I got to represent the culture of the kingdom through vulnerability. I never thought that would be the key, the clincher. That would be the thing that, would transform men, would be the level of the more vulnerable you are, the more breakthrough you'll get. And going back home, it was such a shock to our culture. Me sharing, stuff about my sexuality, stuff I hadn't shared with anyone in 25 years. Like going back there, and these guys were like, "Oh, okay,
We're about to get real."
But at the beginning, they didn't know what to do. But you start seeing the fruit later on of transformation. That power, Bible says that. The Passion Translation, a weakness is a portal to his power. You start realizing, these moments of vulnerability are actually an access point for connection. In 1 John 1:9, it says that if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. So suddenly there's this camaraderie in the spirit, like there's this connection, and then the blood of Jesus cleanses all unrighteousness. But to me, that's a connection with God and a connection with man. I'm like, man, if you're lonely, vulnerability is literally the blueprint for connection with God and connection, fellowship. And so, yeah, they started coming to be part of our school and friends, and then they started getting super vulnerable. And I don't know, like I asked a bunch of my friends, what does a healthy man look like? And they said vulnerable.
Wow.
Yeah.
They said a healthy man carries vulnerability, and they said they are blown away by the community here in Reading because of how it celebrates vulnerability.
Yeah.
It really is the deal, right? Like, we are so wired to be known on the deepest level. And I always tell our men in BraveCo, like, to me, the pinnacle is that you've weaponized your story. You're not ashamed of your past. And I learned it from my dad, right? Because he used to tell me, like, anything that you battle with, that you overcome, you can give that away. And so then he put this responsibility on me. He would tell me, like, I want you to go give that away, right? Like, I want you to go, for instance, I was struggling with masturbation for a long time. Like, that was one thing I realized, I can give this away to other guys, right? Like, I can help a guy who's struggling. I can help him get out. And so when you start to live that kind of life, it makes no sense to hide. And it's actually like the most empowering thing is to go like, this is where I was and this is where I'm at today, because you know that everyone else's story is in some ways relying upon you to be the catalyst for them. And so, man, just getting guys to, if they can open up, if they can weaponize their story, if they can not be ashamed or work through the shame of their past and get to a place where they feel lovable, not because of what they did wrong, but because of who they are. And stepping into that, I mean, to me, that feels like a massive key for people. DJ, I'd love to hear a little bit about what has it been like for you learning to like get vulnerable, open up, build a community of men in your life?
I feel super lucky because I'm actually a product of the men's group, the Aaron's Alps.
No way, that's awesome.
So way back, I attended it. You're kind of handed like the blueprint. You're handed like a group of dudes, and you're vulnerable, you know, and then you watch that play out. And so I feel like that space was really valuable for me. At that point, I didn't know how long I'd be in Reading, and I was just like, okay, I need to take as much in, because if I'm leaving, I need to, you know, I need this back home. And so I think I just experienced the power of vulnerability. And I think too, the Lord is so intentional on who he like puts you around. Like, you're not just rubbing shoulders with people like randomly. God is actually intentionally putting you in spaces with the men around you for a reason. And it's, I find there's an invitation to ask the Lord, why am I in this group of people? Why am I with these dudes? Like, and then after that, start to get curious and figure it out. So I think something that I've learned is often when you're vulnerable, you hear everyone around you say like, bro, that happened to me. Or bro, like I deal with that, or I used to, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I figured out that I wasn't alone. I think that was really tough. I think feeling like I'm the only one, or like no one else around me, you know, I'm in this ministry school and everyone is whatever, but it's like, you learn that you're actually not alone, and that's on the other side of vulnerability, though.
Yes.
It's amazing. I feel like vulnerability, like I feel like discipleship in the church kind of has a bad rap in two ways. One, it seems really boring. So I like the model for us really has been, hey, let's go get coffee and let's sit down and you tell me all of your stuff, and then we'll do it next week. And it's like, man, I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in that at all. Like, it just does not sound like any fun. And so I think that there's like when guys hear us talking about this, I often think that they're going like, yeah, good for you guys, but like, no thanks. Yeah. Or that we're like just a bunch of guys like hugging on each other all day and crying about, our lives. And it's just like, I can't go 30 minutes without calling Rich and being like, man, I just felt a sad emotion again. I just need to hear you say you're going to be okay. Like, can you just shed a little bit of light on, Aaron, like on like how we've kind of changed that narrative a little bit, and like, what does it really look like to be known by guys, but also like just everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, it's you guys stated it so well, the blueprint for connection. And I never thought I was lonely ever, because I was surrounded by people that I loved, that people who knew me, until I realized that I'm not actually known by these people. I'm not known by them, not through fault of their own, but because I haven't shared all the stuff that I swore I would never share with anybody, or even the stuff that I just thought was supposed to be between me and God. This guy Nate Larkin says that we were given a personal relationship with Jesus, but we weren't promised a private one, because he first called 2 disciples and then added more. And then when he sent them out in pairs. And then he said, hey, I'm going to go, but I'll come back under very specific parameters wherever 2 or more of you are gathered. And so he's got this direction for our life that is meant to be connected, but it's not just hang out and do stuff. Like, there's one level of logistics that we can all enjoy sports together. But when I share something that is scary to share, that carries some risk, that's how we would define vulnerability. I'm giving somebody an opportunity to either hurt me or care for me. And to feel somebody take your vulnerability, which a lot of times we experience as kids, our vulnerability was met with harm. And so then we go, oh, not doing that again. But you have given any chance to lay out your vulnerability before somebody, and they go like, wow, thanks for sharing. Also, yeah, I did that weird thing too. And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So this being known, the way that the culture that we've created here is, it's not an experience of, oh, I just need to tap into a well of sadness and constantly be pulling from that and handing to everybody. There is stuff in there that you have been suppressing for years and years and years, and it's manifesting in all these other ways that you are not connecting to your sadness, your pain, your loneliness, etc. So having a chance to release the pressure valve that's built up over years and years, to dig from that well, to go, feel this. It actually gives you access to joy, because joy and pain are dug from the same well. And so you can't just go I'm going to stop the pain, the well of pain. And then you're like, why don't I feel anything? I can't feel joy around my kids. I can't enjoy my marriage. I can't enjoy a sunrise, a sunset. Oh, it's because I've stopped up the pain. But we've created a culture in which pain is welcomed. It's welcome to be shared, because we know that what's on the other side of that is, man, I can actually share in joy for the first time in my life. I feel, Ken Williams says this, you cannot be unconditionally loved until someone knows the condition you're in. And so it's really tapping into the love of God, the love of other people, by going, here's crap that I don't like. And they go, oh, wow, you're still lovable. And you're like, wow, really? I never thought that was possible. So getting that kind of reciprocal love and affection, it's allowed me to pursue dreams. It's allowed me to connect with my wife vulnerably. It's allowed me to connect with my kids in areas that I didn't think I could, because I finally have the stuff that I swore I'd never tell anybody revealed and then accepted in the midst of that. And so it's a culture of acceptance. It's a culture of connection. It's a culture of I can pursue the things that are on my heart because I've actually dealt with the things that are holding me back.
I love it. In my friend group, you know that verse, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I mean, to me, we were designed to be sharp. We were built and designed to be a weapon, right? We were designed to go into the darkest places of the earth and to bring light, to bring hope, to bring peace. And so I think in my friend group, it is less about the pain that you're in and so much more about where are you called to be? Are you living up to, right? Are you taking risk? Are you stepping out? Are you showing up? Are you being intentional when you get home? If you do all that stuff, there's going to be pain in your life, right? And I remember I was in Taiwan this year, which is a really long trip. My kids were sick at home and my wife wasn't feeling good. And I just spoke 10 times at Taiwan. And so I just text my friends hey, listen, I just need y'all to know, I'm over here. Things are tough. I didn't need any of them to go hey, do you want to jump on the phone? I literally just needed them to know where I was at, because I needed to offload that backpack or get these guys in my corner so that I can continue on this path that I'm on. And I just think that it's also why we're doing the conference, right? Honestly, I don't like conferences. And I don't like conferences because I don't like to sit and I don't like to be talked to for long periods of time, right? That's why I didn't do good in school. But to me, that's not what we're doing. We're not creating a conference. We're creating a place where men can come and get activated, where you can come and get sharp, where you can come to band together, which is why we're doing different things in this conference than we've ever done. Putting guys in tribes where they'll literally go through the whole conference together. You'll battle together in these challenges and enjoy the camaraderie of being with somebody else, right? And find your limit too, even physically and mentally and emotionally. Allow another guy to come beside you and to cheer you on, right? To give you courage, impart courage to you. But to me, there's a real call in this day and age where we're at to step up and to engage. And to me, that feels like the word for where men are at today is like, get engaged, get intentional. And the truth is it's like, it doesn't matter if you grew up without a dad or if you grew up with a dad. If you can pull brothers into your life who are all doing the same thing, and I think that's the biggest key in my life right now is the success in my life is coming out of, I know when I go home and I see my wife and kids, my friends are going to show up the same exact way that I am. They're going to engage. And those days when I don't feel like engaging, I know my friend's doing it. And working out, like I work out because my friend works out in the morning and I work out with him. He's waiting for me. And finances, I had a big struggle with finances this year. And like I literally pulled my guy friends around me and went, this is where I'm at. Help me figure out how to get out of this. And in 2 months, it completely turned around. Like, but to me, it's all about, I am engaging with men who are engaged. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring men in, give you this incredible opportunity, this moment where you can connect with other men and then get launched into discipleship, get launched into partnership, get launched into connection so that you can really engage in the life that you're in. And to me, if we can do that, if we can band together as men, if I can take my strength and your strength and your strength and impart that to the men around us, like it's just it's what God's doing on the earth today. And I'm excited. Thank you guys for coming today. I'm excited to meet each one of you at the conference. I want to personally invite you to come, bring your friends, come and be engaged. It's June 21st through 23rd. And it's going to be phenomenal. We have John Bevere coming. My dad's going to speak. Lots of cool stuff. But most importantly, I think men are going to leave feeling sharp. They're going to leave feeling connected. They're going to leave feeling engaged. And so, guys, thank you so much for coming today. This is awesome spending time with you.